All right. Hello. Hello. This is Abel Pacheco, your host for the Five Talents podcast. We are super excited, as always, today to have another great, amazing guest. Sue, thank you very much for joining. How are you?
I'm doing great today. Abel, how about yourself?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you very much for joining, and I really appreciate it. For those of you that don't know, Miss Sue, how do you pronounce your last name correctly? Is it
It
how?
is pronounced Hough. Thank you for
Huff.
asking. Not very few people get it correct. So you're in the
Well,
majority.
we're trying, to get it right, and we'll make sure Miss Sue Huff gets her name pronounced correctly at a minimum on our show. But no, for anybody that doesn't know Sue, you are in for a treat because we're in a time in the marketplace where we are having hard times to finding deals, and Sue's going to take us a little bit through, like, yeah, the reason she does ground up construction. So instead of having to look for a single family residential home, which is in super high demand and super low supply in today's time and age, she's going to talk to us about why she took the pivot and just started developing deals. So I'm super excited to hear from her. But if you don't know Sue, she is one of those individuals that has been a speaker at some of the largest real estate conferences in the US, like Bigger Pockets Conference. She's spoken at the Midwest Real Estate Networking Summit. She's really involved in some other conferences that focus directly for women entrepreneurs, a lot of those in real estate, which I'm a big fan of, especially since my wife helps me in our business. So she is one of those individuals that for like 20 years in the Chicago market has just been crushing it. And then now in the Smoky Mountains over there in Tennessee. So we're going to jump into it. But Sue, in your own words, why don't you please tell us who you are, what you do, and we'll just start a great conversation here.
Well, Abel, thank you for that wonderful introduction. Quite honored to be here, and thank you for letting me be part of your organization. And hello to everybody listening today. I'm Stu Hough. I've been a builder and a developer now for a little over 20 years. I started in the Chicago area and have just recently become a full-time resident of Eastern Tennessee. It's a little bit different, but it's just wonderful here. And working on a project that I've been aspiring to do now for almost 5 years, and it's come to fruition. I've got 118 acres of land in the Smoky Mountains on English Mountain, and going to develop it into a beautiful subdivision, but with a lot of land, and it's more of a lifestyle. Honoring nature quite a bit is really one of my biggest focuses, and providing large 5-acre lots to most of the landowners there, and opportunities for them to put in-law suites separate for additional income, winding trails, and a little bit of an organic farm, and just really, although my marketing team calls it moonset yoga, it's sunrise yoga during season. We've just got some really great things going on over here, and this has been my brainchild, my baby for 5 years, and it's here. We've broken ground, and it's very exciting.
All right, that sounds awesome. 118 acres is no small feat, and I'm excited, to learn a little bit more about it. So, before we get into the project that you're doing, just so our listeners have a little bit of background, because some of the things that you mentioned and we talked about, it's 25 years of construction development, woman in real estate, and now developing 118 acre deal. That may be hard for some people to fathom. How in the world does someone just get into this stuff, right? So talk to us a little bit about, how you grew up. Were you around real estate? Were you around investor parents? Were you around that? Was it something new? Just take us a little bit through, how you grew up.
I grew up very middle class Chicago, grew up in a little blonde brick home in a neighborhood with a lot of immigrants, and predominantly that was a time mom stayed home to raise the kids, and dads went out to work. Including my father, he was an electrician, and my uncles, we all lived close by one another. And most of my friends' fathers, they were in the trades. So I didn't come into real estate as much as I came into the trades. My parents did have a few properties that they had inherited, but they sold, those were sold throughout Chicago's history. And that's how I kind of came. So I was very knowledgeable and hands-on. Cute little story. So I was daddy's little girl and just loved hanging around with my dad. He was an electrician, and I would do just about anything to be his little helper. And about the age of 7, he made me one year, and I believe it was for my 7th birthday, my little leather tool belt that he had made and put together. And I proudly wore that and helped him, pulling wires through conduit, because in Chicago we have conduit, and just kind of like help being his little helper. I don't know if I provided much help. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but so that's how I started. And I think it kind of went from there, where I just saw, easily could see how things were put together, as they say, behind the walls, behind the drywall. I could understand that from an early age.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just for a little bit of background. So for anybody with children, you have to realize that your actions, that you who you are, what you're doing, your children are looking and picking everything up. And Sue, like you said, you were involved in the trades, but something in there was saying, hey, I'm gonna keep going, and I'm gonna learn more. And just the fond memories, right? Like my dad would take me around a rental property that we had one rental house, and we'd go and collect the rent check, on a weekend or whatever. And I'd go and talk to the renters, look around the house and make sure everything was okay. And then afterwards he'd take me, we'd, go have a little burger and fries. And I thought that treat with my dad, that time with my father, was just amazing. It was something that, it's somewhere has an impact deep down and creates the future. Right. So got to remember that when you have little ones. So how did that impact you in the future? Now you're a developer, right? So
I started back in 97. I did not want to go. I was in marketing at the time at a lovely position in Chicago, but it's a very demanding job. And I didn't want to go back to corporate America and work a lot of hours. And there was a gentleman who lived a couple of blocks away. He was an older gentleman. He passed away. And he didn't have any family. He just had gotten to the point he wasn't able to upkeep his home. And this was before people knew about fixing and flipping, and the house went on the market. And this was when real estate agents and banks didn't want properties that were distressed. They were dumping them for pennies on the dollar. I don't know if you remember that or not, Abel. And it's back when homes actually had a lot of equity in them. The banks just didn't even want them. Now, how times have changed. Oh, if something went into foreclosure, they would dump it for nothing. So I told, I said, let's rehab this. I'll do this at night after the kids, my children were very little and could go to do the little work at night. And that's how I learned. And our first home that we fixed and flipped was a pretty big success. And that's where it went, a little home here and there. And we had a family restructuring a few years later, and I stuck with it. And, I took on bigger projects. So then I needed to hire more competent men, because I did all of the work myself at first.
Awesome. That's awesome. Before HGTV, before the retail, the new version TV shows, reality shows that have all of the flippers. So before all that stuff, you got after it. Roughly speaking, before you developed your own project, how many fix and flips did you do, or how many times did you do that? If you could give us a guess. Or
you mean before Moody Moon Ridge here?
Just in general, over the years, how many projects have you done?
100. I mean, because then I became actually a custom builder. So I went into working for people.
So you did this 100 times, give or take, right? She's probably, I bet you were being conservative through that.
I don't know,
How,
maybe.
yeah. How in the world does somebody start and finish that? Like if somebody's looking, hearing this right now and say, God, I'm just trying to do my first one. There's a little bit of mindset that you have with that expertise, the time, the knowledge. Give somebody some kind of nugget of wisdom to say, hey, you can do it. If they're trying to figure out, I haven't even done one. How do I get to 100? It's just crazy.
I think, well, as they say with anything, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So don't look at it as 100. That would be overwhelming, because if you would have told me 20 years ago I was going to do 100, I would have laughed at you. That wasn't what I was. The biggest thing one of the biggest, I would say, concerns I have in many real estate endeavors nowadays is the misconception that people need to have so much education and knowledge to prepare them for their investment that it becomes paralyzing. Mm-hmm. And my greatest advice is to coin Nike, just do it. I mean, you don't want to use your kid's college fund to fund it, because you could lose money. You have to realize you could lose money. But if you want to do this, you will figure it out. And for the most part, especially when it comes to fixing and flipping, every project is absolutely different than the first one. You gain knowledge along the way, but the plumbing on this house is different than the plumbing on that one. The problems with this house will be different than the ones before. So the greatest asset you could give yourself is just know that whatever problems come up, you will diligently find a solution to it.
Yeah, that's great.
That's it. There's no other answer, because there's no way to be prepared.
Yep. Everything's going to be, every deal, I can attest, every deal has been different. Every market, sub-market, financing, time, investor, dollar, interest rate, all these things are just, everyone is different. And you can try to get all the training and education in the world as you can, but until you're in it, you're not going to be faced with some challenge or obstacle that you learned about. It's like, oh, okay, there's a new one, and I have to figure out how to go through the other side, right? Well, let me pause you too, because this, some of the mindset that we have on our show, right? How to build wealth like the 1%. So we are trying to help others, and myself, frankly, trying to learn these nuggets of wisdom along the way to build additional wealth for our family, and how to figure out how to do it, right? How did you maybe talk about, before we get to this development, how you did 100 projects, 20 something years? There was probably certain themes or different waves of education or knowledge that you had to get, different with the way you financed deal number 1, and then you made some profit, and the way you financed deal number 20 and number 50, and the way you're maybe doing it today. How do we even process this? From
so on the first deal. On the first deal, pardon me, we did have some equity, or we had some savings, we had some equity, and it was enough to cover. And I wouldn't even say equity. We had some, I don't know why equity. We did have some savings. So the first deal was $32,000 purchase price, put in less than $20,000 of rehab. And one of the things, if you're first starting out too, the best thing that probably ever I did to give me the knowledge where I'm at today is doing hands-on, because I know how long something takes. I know what's really involved in it and what's the right way and wrong way to do it. And therefore I have a little bit better control, although now it's a little bit different. But as I was growing, I had a little bit more control over my subcontractors and them not being able to kind of pull the wool over my eyes. And just understanding construction is just one of the biggest things. But so the first deal, finance myself. I always tell people, if you don't have the money to finance it yourself, because it is hard to get a loan, especially on your very first deal, unless you're really highly capitalized. But if you aren't that person, if you're, like myself, partner with somebody that does. There's a lot of people that don't want to get their hands dirty at all, but maybe would be able to partner with you for money. That's how I would recommend it. You do a couple of like that, you make, out of, the first 5, you make money on 4, and 1 you lose some money on. Expect that. And then you take that and turn that into just a little bit. My first homes were very, very small. As I progressed, the homes became a little bit bigger. Then as time progressed and I started to be more comfortable with the construction crews, because I hired my own crews. I made my own GC company, is how I was different than maybe some other investors. I was very interested in construction and managing all aspects of it. So as we progressed, I was hiring the electrician, and I actually made a company and hired everybody to do the work. And I was working for some other investors as well, too. So it worked out well. And then, I started working for private clients, doing remodeling projects for them. Then that progressed into working for private clients and doing new home construction. Then I did some spec homes. And well, that took about 20 years.
20 years.
Right. I mean, and as time progresses, if you do a good job, you're a prudent investor, word gets out that who you are. So my project is a full syndication, and I do have some of my own money. So now you're just dealing with more money, people that have a little bit higher net worth. And to be honest with you, it's easier now. It's easier to get 100,000 from somebody than 20,000 from somebody. I hate to say it, but it's true.
I don't disagree. If you can put $1 million in, there's probably the least questions that I have as opposed to some investors with, $50K. It's like, this is, it depends, right? Anybody listening to, I would absolutely not recommend investing your last 50K. Don't do that. Absolutely. That's the money that you need to survive on. But yes, for whatever it is, right? If I have a lot of it, I'm putting the trust and faith in what you're doing. You're an expert, you're a pro, you're going to go do it. There's a lot of questions on it. So I understand. So, okay. So let me fast forward a little bit, right? So I wanted to give everyone some mindset to how you got to where you did. And that is not an overnight success. That's a lot of hard work, a lot of grind, a lot of time, effort, energy, challenges, obstacles. You being a woman in the field as well. I'm sure that was, fun dealing with through the years, right? So now you're doing 118 acres syndication. Maybe just break
about
into
30 homes. We'll have about 30 homes where I'm building right now.
What's the project? Tell us about today?
Today is Moody Moon Ridge. I have 30 homes. We just broke ground on the first home. It is more of a lifestyle community. And being a woman in Eastern Tennessee as a builder developer is a little bit different than Chicago. Chicago, nobody bats an eye. Here, it's something that is, wow. I believe I'm extremely rare. I can honestly say I think it's just really most of the tradesmen, and they are all tradesmen, so I'm not trying to be sexist. They're as well-intentioned, they're wonderfully well-intentioned and quality men. But the first time we meet, I could always tell them 2 or 3 times, I'm the builder, I'm the developer, and I know they're hearing me. And then when they show up to the job and they're like, oh, I thought I was going to meet your husband or something like that. And they keep thinking I'm the homeowner. And I'm like, no, I'm not the homeowner. But, we get past that awkward moment, and all of a sudden, and when I can start talking to them and relating, it's been turning out to be really great relationships here. But I love, it's interesting.
That's awesome.
But Moody Moon Ridge, we're going to be building 25 single family homes, a handful of townhomes, a swimming pool, pickleball court, common building, some open fire pits. I've got about 1.5 miles of walking trails. We are on the mountain, so we have a beautiful terrain, and doing some Tesla solar panels, a little bit of an organic farm. So it's more of a lifestyle.
Awesome. That sounds really
it is.
cool.
I'm I'm building it because it's everything I want. Hopefully 30 more
Hopefully
people,
other people
want
want
it.
it as well, right? Well, it's not 3 million. It's, it's 35
Right.
here talked about, right? So yeah, that sounds amazing. That sounds really amazing. I've never been to the Smoky Mountains, the foothills of the Smoky Mountains, but
It's
either way,
beautiful. It's
I'll
beautiful.
have to go visit sometime, huh?
Yes, yes, you should. You definitely need to come out this way.
Yes, ma'am. Well, so when you approach this deal, it's been, I think, a few years in the making up to
It
this
is.
point.
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
What was the decision? What was the mindset around, I'm going to go do this big deal and go do it all at once. And I'm going to, as opposed to one deal at a time or small house at a time, one residential, I'm going to go to this bigger project. What was the mindset there?
Well, if I could back up about 10 years. So my daughters, I
Yes,
have
please.
3 beautiful daughters. They're grown women, beautiful women right now. And we started coming over to Cosby, Tennessee about 10 years ago. And it's on the outskirts of the Gatlinburg area. So it's about 35 minutes away. And to me, it's really one of the most beautiful places in this country. And I knew then it was something very special here. It was, you could just feel my heart was singing then. And when COVID hit, and I started to really take sit back and look at what was happening. I follow real estate. I follow people that they're migrating, what their patterns are from a behavior standpoint is relative to housing, because it's a very emotional thing when somebody decides to move from one place, to a big state to another, and if it's not job related. And these people were moving and it wasn't job related. And in essence, it was, because now they were no longer tied to big cities. People were moving where they wanted to live. And Tennessee, for the last 3 years, has the largest percentage of inbound residents than any other state. And more importantly, the demographic is those families or households that are coming in, their income is in excess of $150,000 a year. So what was happening is, and they were coming in, to this area, especially because there's a lot of land available. There's a lot of opportunity here. It's absolutely stunning and beautiful. When I started to see the home sales just flying off the shelves so quickly, reached out to a lot of people that I knew it was the time, because they needed builders. There's no inventory here. And the people that were moving here are a lot of people from Chicago, from the East Coast, that are maybe accustomed to a little bit different style of construction than the people that maybe have been living here for, a very long time.
Yeah.
And I knew I could bring that to the table. And I knew, because I have really strong crews from Chicago, a lot of my men have come with me from Chicago. So we're able to give some really great detail to that. I evaluated the local area, Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, beautiful area, but not quite the natural environment that I wanted to go into. So I picked Cock County, Tennessee, because we can build on 5 acres of land. There's very few building restrictions. There's a lot of openness because it's still rural Tennessee, even though Gatlinburg is. There's just a lot more room here and a lot more beautiful nature. And that's why, so I had looked for almost a year before I found the piece of land I'm on.
Cool. And so you said you're doing a syndication on it?
Yes. I am. It's a formal offering, and we do have some spots available. Although I don't think I'm supposed to legally. I have to know somebody.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to put you in a bind. Just to, kind of discuss an opportunity. So that's awesome. That's really good. That's good. Yes. Great to hear. So now for the mindset of jumping in there, the big tackling this project. Hey, this is what I'm going to go after. What do you think some of the biggest obstacles you had to work through from a mindset perspective that maybe you didn't have on the other deals you did?
So here's the truth about me. I have a very unnatural lack of fear, and I don't.
That's awesome.
That's just who I kind of am. I think that's how I'm wired. It's my greatest asset and my biggest downfall too. I think through years of experience and years of taking on some projects that I've lost money on, it's made me very prepared for this. So I really look at it strictly almost from a financial standpoint. How does the numbers work? What do I have to change to make the numbers work and things like that? So those are the things from a business standpoint that I've learned along the way, sometimes the hard way. And the mindset really was, this is it. I knew some people that were going to initially invest, and we talked about it. They were head over heels about it. I pitched it to a few other people, and I just knew this is a really great opportunity from every angle. My original financial prospectus was based on pre-COVID numbers, and we are still successful at numbers that were before COVID. And so that's kind of my safety net. So from a business standpoint, I'm really confident that we've got something great here. But from an emotional standpoint, oh yeah, the day before I was closing on that land, I'm like, what the heck am I thinking?
Yeah, you're ready. You're ready to get after it. Well, that's good. You need a bit of both, I think,
Yes.
Which is the conservatism, the numbers, the double checking, hey, I've had some losses, and those losses will definitely curb your motivation or inspiration, all the the good stuff. But you need a little bit of the other side, which is like, let's move forward. We have to take a risk.
Mm-hmm.
We have to move forward. You've got to, overcome some of the fear. Otherwise, the ideas don't get accomplished. That's on the other side of it, right?
Abel, you hit on a really good point. I think to be in this industry at any capacity, as including myself, you have to be comfortable taking risks, and some of them are pretty big risks. Conservative people, this isn't for them, it can't be. You just have to be saying, okay, we're going to go for this, and there is a chance it may not go as planned, but let's go for that, because the odds are it's pretty good at this point.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, well that's great too. Thank you so much for that insight and mindset. And for the people that are listening now, right? What advice would you give them to help them overcome that fear, overcome that, and just get started? I know I don't want to hammer the same discussion again and again, but I think mindset is so important, because you can get all the education in the world. You can overanalyze. You can, how do I just move forward? Can you give maybe a tactical, one or two thoughts on that?
What I do tactically right now, because this has been the last 2 years, it's taken emotionally, it's been a difficult, hard to keep focused. For me personally, if I make it about something bigger than myself, I can do it. So this project, believe it or not, and I don't have any grandchildren yet, and I say yet, but I don't have any grandchildren. This project is for my grandchildren and for the next generation. So when I get down, I make it about them. 7-10 years ago, when I got down and didn't make it about myself, my children were still much younger. It was about my children. Okay, if I can do this, then I'm able to provide this for them, or I'm able to do this, and so I always make it bigger than myself and not about myself. And that kind of is what can get me out of bed in the morning, when I just want to curl off and just say, I don't want to do this.
I love it, Sue. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to be about something bigger, because you have to have that motivation. You have to, because you're going to face obstacles. You're going to have a challenge. You're going to have, you're going to get punched in the face a couple times. You're like, oh my gosh, did that just happen? Yes. And when they do, you have to be able to keep going. And what a great tactical step for somebody to say, hey, you got to make it about something else. It's not just about this project. It's not just about a return. It's not just about some money.
Isn't.
What is
it's
it,
not
right?
about the money. It's about something bigger than yourself. And Moody Moon Ridge, and one of the things I put in is, once we're profitable, 10% of our profits go to the local Cosby schools, because we're in an area that the children, they're small rural schools. They've never had after school programs and things like that. We need to give back. You need to, support and help other people. So make it bigger than yourself. Know that you're going to have fun. And the second bit of advice, no matter what, every single night before I go to sleep, I try to, and some days it's harder than others, but just enjoy the journey. It's not the destination. It's the journey. It's being covered. I talked to Abel before we started recording. I mean, if you could see from the knees down, I'm covered in red clay today because I was out at the job site. And it may seem trivial, but being covered in red clay means I've broken ground, means I have something I'm working on, and just be happy with it. It's the journey. It's all the little steps along the way.
Yeah, that's another great thought process, Sue. I love it. Me and my wife are enjoying our little ones, and I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old right now. Yeah. And there are all these like challenge, risk, obstacle, the market, everything. We record this March 16th, 2023. It was last week. Silicon Valley Bank failed. You've got the First Republic, you got Signature Bank. Now they're talking about Credit Suisse, and you have all of these fears, these potential worries, and they're real things. They really happened. And you're like projecting a mindset forward and saying, man, if this happens, what if that? And then you can, you paralyze yourself. And then, we thought about it. We had our nephews over, and everyone's at spring break, and they're hanging out at our house, and we're like, thank you, Lord, just the ability to have we have a few bathtubs going at the same time. Compared to the one houses when we were little, are like, oh, everyone's there, they're all enjoying it, and they're all hanging out, and just we just enjoyed the moment. So part of that journey is like, hey, today we're here, so let's enjoy it right now. Let's enjoy the spot we're in today.
Right. And many times I've said, thank you, Lord, for giving me the opportunity to practice my patience yet another day.
There's a good honest prayer while we're talking about the Lord, right? It's like the honesty is like, wow, thank you for the opportunity to practice this patience, because that was hard. I love it. Well, thank you so much. Well, Sue, for anybody that wants to reach out to you, maybe about, whatever the case, who do you want to reach out to you, and how should they contact you? Where do they go?
Well, I would love to talk to anybody who's interested in buying a home, either for yourself or we're in one of the top 3 strongest short-term rental markets in the nation, at Moody Moon Ridge. Or if you're, an investor looking to, broaden your short-term rental portfolio, you can reach me at www.moodymoonridge.com. And there's a link in there to schedule a call with me, or my phone number's in there. And, if anybody has questions, I love helping people out too. If you're kind of just starting in development and you just need to, shoot the bull for a few minutes, or have a question on what really goes into ground up development, I love hearing from people. So give me a call, and you can find all of that information there on the website. And my direct email is there too, sue@moodymoonridge.com.
Very good. Well, we're excited. Sue took some time out of her schedule. We took some time out of our schedule to record some time. So Sue is probably, if you're listening to this, she's probably pretty serious. She would like a call, right?
I do.
We're getting some exposure. We're trying to get out there. So, reach out to her. I'm sure she has a moment for one of those conversations. I'm excited for her. Well, Sue, I've taken a few minutes of your day, so I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the opportunity. Is there anything we didn't get to talk about that you were hoping I asked you about, or any particular, subject? You're like, oh, you know what? I really wanted to say ABC, XYZ. Now is your time. So if there's anything else, we'd love to hear it.
Not really. I mean, I thank you so much. And especially to the women out there, please reach out to me. I would love to talk to you, help you get over your fears. And one little bit of advice to women, I think we get in our way more than anybody else. Don't let it, really. You got this, girl. You got this. If men can do it, you can do it. It's okay.
I love it. I love it, Sue. That's exactly 100% right. So I'm going to have my wife listen to this one as well and say, this is the one. You need to listen to her as well. So I really appreciate it. To our listeners, our subscribers, we really appreciate everything that you guys are doing. Please take a moment, if you haven't, leave us a rating and a written review. We would really appreciate it. We've gotten tons of really 5-star reviews so far. We're hitting, an all-time stride, 30,000-ish downloads a month. So that's awesome. And we really appreciate you all. For our sponsors at Anderson Advisors, thank you as well. So amazing group, amazing people. Reach out to them. You can hit the show notes and find a little bit of their tax and asset planning as well. So thank you very much, Sue. Appreciate the time, and we'll see you on the next show.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.